Another issue that has long been, the sort of definition of the third rail in American politics. What about Social Security? And so Nikki Haley, after the debate, she, became this kind of media, and she's long been a donor class darling. And one of the top issues for the donor class is cutting Social Security. So she took the cable news airwaves and was making the case that we got to do something about this program. We got to cut benefits for some group of beneficiaries. So we wanted to get our group to react to her comments on that as well and see where they stood on the issue. Let's take a listen to how that went.
Well, you've got multiple candidates on that stage that said they wouldn't touch entitlements, including Trump. And any candidate that says they're not going to touch entitlements means that they're basically going to go into office and then leave America bankrupt. Social Security is going to go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare is going to go bankrupt in 8. So the way we deal with it is we don't touch anyone's retirement or anyone who's been promised in, but we go to people like my kids in their 20s when they're coming into the system, and we say the rules have changed. We change retirement age to reflect life expectancy. Instead of cost of living increases, we do it based on inflation. We limit the benefits on the wealthy, and we expand Medicare Advantage plans.
How do you feel about the argument she's made there? Anyone can come in here. How do you feel about the argument?
She's not wrong. We are going to run out of money for it, and there has to be other ways that we can look for pensions and such for people that have put in their time. It's not going to be there. My age group is not going to have it.
To me, it's just a scare tactic. They've been talking about this for decades. And something that she says to make the voters say, yeah, wow, she's right. I'm going to do. But we got an increase, people at Social Security. I think it was last year sometime. And it was a good increase. And for her to be saying that, she needs to scare the people into voting for her.
The problem is what they're using Social Security on. You got a lot of illegal immigrants coming to this country who are qualifying for some of these benefits, which we're paying for, or people who are younger paying for this stuff to be using people who don't deserve to have it. It wasn't meant for that.
It can't continue how it is, or it won't probably continue how it is. But I think it could be changed rather than just eliminated.
I believe we had a culture in America at one point where the working class benefited in their senior years after they were done working based on what they put into the system. And now we have a system that you don't need to work and you can get the most benefits. In fact, we can penalize the rich to pay for those that don't work at all.
Kind of struggling, like as if maybe I don't know something, but don't you have to pay into Social Security to get it? So the notion of people just getting it for free, I'm not quite, it feels like a talking point, but maybe that's not, I wouldn't have come in here and said, oh, Social Security is my #1 priority, so I don't know.
We've had neighbors who've gotten on Social Security and they got on the premise either mental illness or they couldn't hear. Once they get the hearing aid in, or kind of hearing aid they got to fix the problem, they could hear fine. They still don't have to go back to work. They still got on Social Security. So it's becoming a handout benefit.
I don't know about increasing it for my generation, because it's just not going to work. There's too many of us. But for somebody who can't go back to work because they're physically just too old, we can't leave them behind.
So,
very interesting.
A lot of confusion in the room.
I love that lady who's like, I think we have to pay into it. I'm like, yeah, ma'am, we do.
You do.
Take a look at your
She's
pay stub.
That feels like a talking point, but I don't know. She's trying to be very diplomatic there. But I mean, it's interesting to see, first of all, what they've taken in about the program. Everybody seemed to have taken in this, what they accept as reality that, oh, we can't just keep going in the same way. And, obviously you could change the program in a variety of ways to bring in sufficient revenue. You can just lift the income cap, and then you'd have sufficient revenue to fund the program. But, it felt like the vibe in the room was very mixed. And so it frees candidates up to take whatever position they want in terms of Republican primary, knowing that in a general election, saying you're coming after Social Security is absolutely poison.
Yeah, it's also interesting that one man, he's talking about Social Security, but he was talking about the different part of the Social Security program. It's called SSDI, which is the Social Security Disability Insurance. He's not talking about elderly Social Security payments. And you're right. Look, I think a lot of people really fundamentally misunderstand the way the Social Security is funded. It's funded obviously through the payroll tax. The vast majority of people in this country never make enough money to understand, though, that it's capped. Like if you're a doctor who makes $400 grand a year, year, you only pay payroll taxes on a maximum set to $160,000, which means that they actually, it's almost a benefit for them whenever they're going over that. So sure, they have to pay federal income tax, but the normal tax that any normal person out of us would pay is not even close to that, you know, for payroll taxes. And that doesn't even mention the fact that payroll taxes are not touched at all whenever it comes to the income, the dividend income, and the other type of income that the fabulously wealthy people in this country actually do earn, where not only do they pay lower tax rate effective to what they would have as income, they don't pay payroll tax on that at all. So there's a lot of stuff that we could do. It actually wouldn't touch anybody below. You could even make it over $1 million. You'd still make gajillions of dollars if you just put it towards that. But, you know, those people have a very powerful lobby in this country.
Yes, indeed. And you remember when just not that long ago, there was this whole freak out in the Republican Party after the Biden State of the Union of like, how dare you say that we ever wanted to touch Social Security? And then, you know, just months later, they're right back to the same talking points of like, yeah, we do actually want to cut Social Security. So like I said, I think it plays very differently in a Republican primary, where even in a Republican primary, again, like abortion, very mixed sentiment on what to do, how to approach it, whether this is a top issue at all, versus the general public. And, you know, once again, Trump has really staked out the more politically palatable position of just saying, I'm not touching it. This is something he's been saying since 2016. Every time he's run, it's I'm not touching it whatsoever, which obviously plays better in a general election.
Yep, very true. But anyway, look, I think the fun part about the group is that we could see like division in real time and how people think very nuanced about the issue. And also, you know, about kind of first strikes. Like that one man I thought was telling. It's like this one gentleman, he's, you know, I'm not going to assume his age, but he looks relatively older. It's like he's probably going to be receiving Social Security, but in his mind, it's not an elderly program, it's a disability program. Whereas the younger people, they're like, well, yeah, solvency there, it does make sense in terms of what we're talking about, but I don't think we should let people off. And then the other woman, like you said, would be like, I think we pay into it. But you know, the other thing is, I don't remember her occupation, but if you don't work, you actually don't get Social Security, which is a whole thing, you know, whenever it comes to house moms and stuff like that. So it actually makes sense if you haven't worked before, you don't really know that much about payroll taxes.
Yeah, that is a good point.
All
So interesting stuff. Thanks again to JL Partners for working with us on this. We're excited to do more going forward because I think we got a lot of really, I mean, there's just no substitute for actually hearing real voters in their own words grapple with these issues and get a sense of what's the priority, what's not the priority, how are they reacting to these various clips that we see all the time. And, you know, reminder, this isn't scientific. This is just this group of voters and their particular view of the world. But I also feel like their perspectives and the breakdown of that group matches up with a lot of the polling that we see too in terms of, you know, Trump still being very dominant and who some of the potential second place contenders are and how they're viewing the issue landscape, et cetera. So always really useful and really interesting to hear voters in their own words.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.